Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to this day of learning Torah. And let's begin the day with charity. As usual, Tzion b'mishpat tabara, the Jewish people will not be redeemed, ela v'shaveh b'tzedakah, with charity. And charity saves from, protects from all not good things, and brings about all good things. And the best thing of all is the Moshiach. Now we're learning about exactly what it means, the sentence that that our Torah portion begins with, double Torah portion begins with, and it is, if you walk in my statutes, then I will give the rains in their time, and the ground, the earth will produce its foliage, its produce. The earth will be the. So at first glance, this is a sentence for Israeli farmers. If you do my statutes, and it's sort of giving you a choice. If you do my statutes, then the earth will give its produce, and if you don't, then it won't. Well, first of all, you see that it's not really so true, because there's a lot of people in the world that don't do God's statutes, and there's a lot of Israeli farmers that don't do God's statutes, and we have bread on the table and fruit in the refrigerator, and so it seems that things are growing without doing God's statutes. And I don't know. I mean, it could be that observant farmers have a better output than non-observant farmers do. This could be. This could be. I know people that grew grapes that made wine. Was someone, a fellow that I knew in a place called Yitzhar, and he made wine, and he was very, very careful about the Shemitah year, not working on his land, the Shemitah year, and everybody thought he was crazy. And I guess he was crazy, but it ended up that the wine that came out, the grapes that came out in the wine, it won prizes internationally, crazy prizes. So, he claims that it's because he kept them. But in any case, that's definitely is not the purpose of Judaism, and it is not the motivation for being a Jew and keeping the commandments, is that you'll have good crops and that the rains will come in their time. You won't be caught outside without an umbrella or something. So what is the purpose? Why is this in the Torah? Why is this in the Holy Torah talking about this? Okay, so first of all, simply meaning it is true. Simply meaning it is true. If the Jewish people do what God is supposed to do, then there will be plenty, and there will be, the physical worries about, concerns will be alleviated. Right? Will be alleviated. Maybe in a miraculous way, maybe in a natural way. I think people are generally, they believe in God, so they're less uptight. They're less this. Okay, but maybe some people are more uptight because they believe in God. Some people are much more. But you have to, every little law, every little detail, and especially they're very, especially at other people. They see other people not doing it, and then they get aggravated. But okay, so let's go back to our topic. The Rebbe says that simply meaning, yes, it's true. If you do the commandments, your crops will grow, and etc. like that. You're promised. It's not an ATM machine, but still, it improves your chances. But that definitely is not the total intent of what's going on over here. And in fact, in Judaism, we see that it's not really that important to Jews. Here we have the Jewish people have been basically almost 2,000 years without their land at all. And how many of those people that are wandering around the world, Jews, are farmers? Not very many. So this has been not relevant for 2,000 years. No. So what it's trying to say is, says the Rebbe, is it's relevant for every single Jew for all time, every place where they are. And in fact, this is the message of the Jewish people to the world, because the Jewish people are here to educate the whole world. That's why we're here. Like the blessing of God to Abraham. You will be a father to all mankind. Av Hamon Goyim. That's the name Abraham comes from that. The name Abraham comes from that his name was changed, that he became a father to all mankind. That's the job of the Jewish people. So in order to do this, we have to get ourselves together ourselves. So it's like if you want to, be a movie projector or something. You want to project up your program to the world, so your machine has to work, and especially the lenses have to work that are going. So we have to ourselves be in tune with the creator of the universe. And how are we going to do that? So first of all, what does it mean to be in tune with the creator of the universe? It means to have love. It means to have love. Like if you have a financier or an economist or a person who works in a bank, right? A broker who deals with money, you have to have an appreciation for the value of money, right? If you're an art salesman or an art critic, you have to have an appreciation for art. A musician has to have an appreciation for music, have to have an appreciation. Appreciation means that you love it. It's really, you love good music, you love good art, you have an appreciation. That's what it should be. So a Jew has to have an appreciation of God. You have to really love God. That's the way it's supposed to be. And eventually everyone will love God. That's one of the meanings of Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, and you should love God. It also means that God should be loved by means of you. Sheshem Hashem nitahev al yadecha, that God's name should be loved because of you. You should bring other people to love God. How can you love God? Because God is creating everybody. That's for starts. God is creating everyone, every single instant, and every single nerve and sinew and organ and sense that you have of all these 8.5 billion people, however they should, I hope there'll be more people, each one God is creating individually. So that's one basic reason to love God. God is creating you, to appreciate God. So the Rebbe says, how are you going to appreciate God? That's the idea. How are you going to appreciate God? So that's what he's talking about. It says, B'chukotai telechu. How can you walk in the ways of God? How can you come to love God? It says, B'chukotai. Im is a promise in this case. Im, a desperate request. If you will go in my statutes, then you will go. What does it mean go? You will have love. You want to have love? It's b'chukotai. What's b'chukotai mean? So the Rebbe says, the word chukotai means to be carved out, to clean out. You have to clean yourself out from the outside and from the inside. Chukotai means two types of carving out. And then the Rebbe explains how. First of all, from the outside means think about God. Read the Psalms of King David, especially the last 5 Psalms in the book of Psalms. There's 150 Psalms. Last 5 Psalms. How King David is praising God. What does that mean? That's in our prayer book. That's how the prayer book starts off, with these 5 Psalms of King David. God is praising, David is praising God, that God creates the world, and the trees are praising God, and the animals are praising God, and that God, you are great, and that God, you are wonderful. Think about this. Think about it a little bit. Think about it. In other words, direct your attention away from yourself and to your creator. And eventually you start to feel that it's true. A little bit. At least you'll remove a little bit of your selfishness. That it's possible not to think about yourself all day. You can actually put godly thoughts in your mind, King David's thoughts in your mind. That's one type of carving out from the outside. The carving out from the inside is the Torah, the Torah and its commandments. When you do the Torah and the commandments, this is especially for the Jews, but non-Jews also have 7 Noahide commandments. When you do the Torah and the commandments, because the Torah and the commandments are totally not understood. You cannot understand them. They are the will of God. And it's true, they come through all the other aspects of God. So there's certain aspects of the commandments that can be understood, right? You put tefillin on your arm, that your heart should be directed to God, and your head, so that your mind should be directed to God. There's certain logic to it, but essentially the commandments are godly. And when a person does it, it cleans him out from the inside. You start to feel that my will, what I want, is not so important. At least there's an alternative to what I want, what I love, what I like, what I get pleasure from. From the inside, you're given an alternative. What about what God wants? What about You're doing what God wants. You're doing the commandments. What about what God gets pleasure from? That's God's pleasure, is you do the commandment. It starts to go inside, and it refines you. It refines you from the inside to the out. What does it mean, refines you? It takes away your mistaken identity. And that enables you to be moving, halicha, moving, to have love of God. Okay, but Ikar, the main, let's get this over here. But Ikar hilicha, the main going, who hitkalot nefesh be'echad, is unifying, really unifying your soul in the oneness of God to cling to your Creator. How can this be possible? In other words, what does it mean? You see, there are pictures of soldiers. There's stories of soldiers, and in the army, and they're fighting for their homeland, and they don't care about anything else. They don't care about their family. They don't care about this, right? Especially you see, I mean, it's not a nice thing to bring up, but especially you see the German soldiers in World War II. They were tremendously loyal to their country. Tremendously loyal to their country. They went out and they killed, right, against Russia. They killed like 27 million Russians. And they fought in the cold, and they fought in this, and they went without food, and they went without sleep, and they fought day and night. And okay, there's other factors I'm sure that are involved in this, but they were devoted to the very end, right? They were defending the city. Little children were going and fighting, and this tremendously devoted to Germany, the big cause, the big cause. And in Russia, the people were devoted to communism. We're fighting for communism and fighting with everyone was excited. We're going to take over the world. We're excited. So you're excited about something bigger, more real than you. The examples I brought are so not so nice, but but the idea is that people want, and they know that they aren't the whole picture. What I want and what I think and what I need and what I don't like and what I do like. That people sense that there's more to reality than just what I want and what I think. Even though that normal life doesn't make us aware of anything bigger, but as soon as something does make us aware, a big speaker or a big whatever, Lenin stands up and he says, we have to take away everybody's money or something. Then all of a sudden everybody says, wow, it makes sense. This is the big thing that I've been waiting for. Always knew it existed, right? Okay, but the fact is that because of all these things are lies, it doesn't mean that there's no such thing as truth. There is truth. And the truth is that everyone will be devoted now to, I am a human being. I am a creation of God. That will be a motivation for everybody. That'll make people serve the Creator and improve the world in the rain and in the snow, and go hungry and go tired and fighting. In this case, though, we're fighting basically against our own false egotism. And what's our motivation? Loving God, loving reality, the Creator. So in order to get to this, you have to cut away a little bit from your egotism. That's what the Rebbe says. First of all, think about God. That's, how do you say, cutting away the bad from the outside. Then doing the commandments. That's cutting away God from the inside. But the main love of God is that your soul should be included. That's what I mean. This inclusion in the oneness of God, to cling to God. The Dov Kabul. Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad. God is one. God is one means that that's the ultimate reality. That's the ultimate big reality that we sense that there must be. The ultimate, how do you say, existence, truth. Let me just make this a little bit bigger here. 1 second. There we go. Well, that's what it says. That's what it says. And my commandments you should keep. Right? That's how the sentence starts off for this person. I'm sorry. If you do my commandments, and my commandments you should keep. What are the commandments? Asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav, when you do the commandments, you say that God married us. He made us holy, Kiddushin, with his commandments. Like we explained in another place. That's what it means. You should keep my commandments. By means of the commandments, mishtamer, then there is kept, there is preserved, or ein sof, the level of atik. By means of doing the commandments, you not only clean yourself out from the inside of your false egotism, at least there's a tool to do it, but also it is preserved inside of you your true identity, namely that I am being created by God. And eventually we'll pass this on to all mankind. And as the world is not my world, reality is not my reality, the world belongs to God, God is creating it, and reality belongs to God. And my responsibility is to God. There's not 1 second of my life that I'm not important to God and to myself and to the world. That's atik. That's inner pleasure of God. I can give God pleasure. Even if nobody knows who I am and I'm not famous and I'm not rich and I'm not this, it could be the most simple person in the world. He is the one that brings the most pleasure to God. Doesn't have to be a Jew. That means attaching to atik, to God's pleasure. It's called the inner aspect of God's crown. That's what it means, that the commandments are like a candle. That's what it means. The commandments are like a candle, like a lamp. Come on near, just like a lamp. Mishamer, that it holds Hashem and Va'or, it holds the oil and the light that can be the flame that's on it. The mitzvah is also the commandments that we do. Here we're talking about Jews, right? The commandments that we do, mishameret bechinat or, it keeps and preserves the infinite light of God, that we should always realize that we are within true reality. And this, in other words, the commandments are not, how do you say, arbitrary. They're not convenience. That's a good word for it. They aren't decided by people. The same God that decided that your heart is not going to be in your leg and that you're going to have 2 eyes and that they're going to be in your head and they're going to be on the same side. Why did God decide that? That's the way it is. That's God's will. Well, that same God decided that Jews should put on tefillin and that they should keep Shabbat. And but the difference is that your eyes are not according to your free will, and the commandments are activated by your free will. You decide to do it. Your choice. That was the tselem that we talked about before in the beginning of the Maimon. Remember the tselem, the nefesh hasichli, the intellectual soul. Vowels and this, it says vasitem that you should do the commandments. Vasitem otam, you should do them, the commandments. But it says vasitem atem, that you create the commandments. What does it mean? Zeu be'emet bechinet asiyah. Then you really do something. You create something. Sheneshamot Yisrael, that the Jewish people, they osim, they do, they create, they force, machrichim, so to speak. Hamshachat orin sof. They force God to bring godliness into the world, into vessels. This is from the language of forcing. It says it's greater someone who forces others to do the commandments than if you do yourself. Forcing by convincing, we're talking about. Bring others. In other words, by doing the commandments, we actually force God to bless the world. Now, any normal person will say, I want out. I don't want any God that I can force him. What type of a God is that? God is supposed to be bigger than me. I'm forcing God, which is a very good question, and it's a very good point. And the answer to that question is that God decided it that way. That's how God set up the world. That's why God created man. God created man. He gave us the power to convince him, to change his will when we change our will. That's this idea of tselem we just talked about. We're made in the image of God. Man is made in the image of God. And we right in the beginning of the Mimer, it said the image of God is our free choice. That we can change our mind, we can change God's mind. When we do the commandments. And that's because God set it up that way. It's not because that we really are, we created God. God, it's like, the black hole created itself or something. God created us, but he created man. That's the whole story of the Bible. God created man. And man has the amazing power that he can change reality. He can change, so to speak, he can change God's mind. That was the way God set it up. That's the way he set it up. This is an amazing, fantastic, incomprehensible miracle. I have to look this word up. You can't possibly even begin to understand this, what God is. And here we're saying that we change God's mind. But it's true. That's the whole story of the Torah. The God is teaching us the Torah to tell us that we can have an effect on him. We can have an effect on him. It's not like, whatever it is, Dostoevsky writes of a novel, and the characters of the novel, they can change Dostoevsky's mind. He made up these people, and it's a book. He wrote a book. They can't change his mind. One of the reasons is because the characters, they can't change their minds either. They're stuck. They're characters, right? But if the characters could change them, if they were really alive and they could, then he would take interest in them. I wonder what they did now, what I created. God created us to change his mind, to improve the world. And that's what it means, that you should do my commandments. You will move, and my command, then it says, mitzvotai, and also my commandments you will preserve. You will preserve godliness in the world. Belashan asiya. Therefore, any person who does something, it's called asiya. Doing. Doing means forcing. Forcing. When you change, you make a pot. You make an idea, a new song, whatever it is. You're forcing. You're taking nature and changing. You're taking notes and making them to something else. You're sort of speaking. Nature on its own doesn't have music like Chopin. Doesn't have music, right? The clay itself doesn't have statues like Michelangelo. It doesn't have. You're changing things, and here we're saying you're changing reality. You're changing God. That when you do something, you're forcing godliness to come down. I mean, that when you do something, you're changing that thing. Similarly, also, when you do the commandments, you're drawing down by this the light of God, Mashahu, which is ne'atak. It, so to speak, removes and separates from the whole order of creation, but nimshach, and it comes down and is rest in vessels in this world of zeranpim, that's talking God's emotions in the world. Therefore, it's called asitem otam. You force them. So by means of doing the commandments, so to speak, we change the world. Other places here, usually we don't do the, okay. That's what it means, vasitem otam. That's what it means, that you do, not that you do the commandments, that you make them. Atem, you make the commandments. Oh, so now it says, if you, my statutes you walk, you love God, you come to love God. That's what we said. Walking means good. And you preserve my commandments, means you do the commandments and you bring godliness into the world. Then you get these big rewards. What's the rewards? The rain comes in its time and the earth gives its plenty. What does that mean? Says the Rebbe, it's not only talking about farmers, and it's not talking about even the physical world. It's talking about natati gishmechem vitam. What does it mean? Gishmechem, in this case, the rains that it gives is the Torah. The Torah is compared to rain, like it says, Yarov kamatal likhi. It's right in the beginning of Ha'azinu, like the second to the last chapter of the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy. It says, Yarov should drip down like rain, my teaching, my Torah. That's what God says. Hine Geshamim, rain comes down begavura. It comes down in droplets. It's separated. But Torah, in the Torah, it says, that the Torah was given behei kolot, in 5 voices, it says. Kol Hashem b'koach, Kol Hashem al-mayim, Kol Hashem. It says the Torah was given in 5 voices. What are these 5 voices the Torah was given in? It says the 5 aspects of God's love which increase, which make things grow. That's the Torah. What makes grow? Rain. The Torah is like rain in that it makes this world, the good in this world, grow. The aim bechinas hey gevuros. This is the 5 gevuros. This is the 5, what do you call it, limitations, severities, powers of Abba, of God's wisdom. Hanasim bechinat, which come chasidim de ema, which they become the kindness of the world below it, which is called ema, which is bina. What does this mean? Moses, he heard the whole Torah in one voice. Says that God answered Moshe in a voice, one voice. Moses, he was from the level of Chachma. Chachma is like the first letter of God's name, a yud, a little point. So he heard everything at once. But Yisrael, the Jewish people, they could not receive so much godliness in one shot. They didn't have the ability, the Kabel, to receive the Torah at once. And the Torah was divided, just like drops of rain, by means of what's called the 5 gevuros, by means of the 5 severities, the 5 limiting powers of Abba, of Chachma. Chachma is the essence of God, so to speak. They gave the Torah, the wisdom of God. They become the 5 voices of the Torah. Zeu peleg elokim malei mayim. That's what it means, that God divided and it is full, I say, water. Perish mashen nitpaleg, that which was divided off from the essence of God, 5 severities, malei mayim, water. Be'emet chasidim. This is God's severity when it comes down to us, is tremendous kindness. Sheyochlim lekabel, that we're able to accept. A simple example, I'll give you a simple example. What are we talking about over here? How severity becomes kindness, right? So let's just give this simple example. Albert Einstein is assigned to give a class, to teach a class, and instead of the class, by mistake, he was given a 3rd grade class. Very smart kids, but 3rd grade class. So he comes in and he starts writing formulas on this, and all the kids are sitting there and they're all crying. They want to go home. They don't know what's happening. He says, nobody understands anything. He says, I understand. Nobody understands. So he said, well, maybe understand this. He makes it a little more simple. Maybe this, a little more simple. Starts getting to, like, the college study. No, not postgraduate. What about the 12th grade physics? No, they don't get it. He realizes he has to more and more limit himself down to his knowledge, his massive knowledge. He just can't give it over at one time, like he could to professors. He realizes he's teaching 3rd grade children, so he has to concentrate. So it ends up he limits his wisdom to tremendously wisdom, but to the pupils, now they can understand. This is kindness to them. The same thing, I think you can say lahavdil, to separate. When God gave the Torah, so he gave pure reality, the essence of his will, he gave over to Moses. He could give it because Moses was like postgraduate. He was a professor, right? But the Jewish people, they couldn't get it. So God had to contract until he gave it over to the Jews little by little. That's the 5 voices, the 5 severities. A voice is it comes from your when your person speaks, so he has to articulate the letters, right? So it's all broken up. That's when God gave the Torah, all broken up. That's why the Torah is compared to rain. That's what it says. If you walk in my statutes, if you have love of God and you do the commandments and keep them, then the rain, named the Torah, will come in its time. Then it becomes called dodi dofik. Then it becomes every word And letter of the Torah becomes the voice of my beloved knocking on your soul saying, open me. That's what Mashiach is going to bring. It says the Mashiach is going to bring a new Torah. New Torah means that the Torah will feel the godliness will feel how God is knocking on our soul to open up every word, every letter of the Torah. That our hearts will be open, that our soul will be able to accept this love all of the time by means of the Torah. And the Torah will increase this love, just like rain increases growing from the ground. The ayam mized will be from this natna oretz yavula. Then the earth will bring forth its produce. What is this level of the earth? Namely, this is the level of ban. And this is the physical world is the numerical value, one of the names of God of 52. It's filling up the name of God with the letters Hey. Hey and Yud. Anyway, there's different ways of filling up the letters of God. And this level of ban, this is the numerical value of animal, behema. So that even the animal that we learned in the beginning, that's called the animal soul, nitbarer, will be refined. Nitbarer min nefesh b'hamit, that's the animal soul. Okay, after that it says, the eitz hasadeh yitain piryo, the trees of the field will give their fruits. Actually, I should have brought this down before. Let's find this over here. Where is this? Yeah. 1 second. Here, the whole full sentence. The full sentence goes like this. The full sentence. I'll bring it down. 1 second. Here we go. I shouldn't really I should have done this before. This is 26:3. 26:3. Can we try it? Let's try it. Here we go. Leviticus. Let's try this. Here we go. See, that's the big problem. You get all these not Jewish things over here. Oh, here we go. This is good. This is good. This is good. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This week's Torah portion. If in my statutes you walk, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, and my commandments you keep, va'asitem otam, and you make them, like we said before, you make God come to the world, then v'natati gishmechem, I will give the rains, we said the rains is the Torah, be'itom, in the proper time, v'natna oretz, and then we said the blessings of the Torah will come into the world. That's why the Torah is called rain, because it's all divided. The words are divided, and then v'natna oretz, then the earth will give its produce. The eitz hasadeh, and the trees of the field will give the fruits. Oh, okay, good. Here we go. 1 second. Then it says that trees of the fruit of the field will give their fruit. This is the level of mayan duchrim. This is what's called God's blessing. Then, in other words, inside of you, that only your animal soul gets aroused, but also your godly soul becomes increased. Kamoba, it's just like in the earth. Sha'oretz ma'alem man, the earth raises up energy. The rain, hamagadel, and the rain that comes down, this is what's called masculine waters. That's man is feminine waters. That's the earth rising up energy, the trees, whatever. And then there is mayan duchrin, God's blessing, masculine waters that comes from above. Like it says, like the rain comes down from heaven. Also by means of joining this level of ma is coming from above to below. That's chachma. And ban, that's coming from below to above. That we said before, ma is the godly soul, and ban is the animal soul. Hine yitain period, then there's going to be fruits. What are the fruits? Eshid galeh, that there will be revealed the concealed good, begava, which is hidden in it. Then the good which is really concealed in this physical world will start to be revealed. That's the whole idea of a farmer. What's a farmer? Very amazing. Think about it a second. You have land, dirt. It's good for absolutely nothing. What can you do with dirt? You can't eat it. You can stand on it. Maybe you can build things on it. You can bury people in it. But the earth itself is dead. What happens when you get hungry? You're in trouble. You're in trouble. Maybe you can catch a fish or something like that, right? The main life of a person comes from the ground. Also, fish, their life comes from everything comes from the ground. Animals eat from the ground, right? Lions, whatever is carnivorous animals, they eat animals that ate plants. Everything goes from the ground. How do you make things grow from the ground? It's a big miracle. So comes along a farmer, and a farmer puts a little seed, something in the ground, and all of a sudden there grows up this tree, and it's got fruits on it. And he plants a field, has all this wheat grows up in it. You can grind the wheat and fruits and vegetables and things like that. It's incredible. It's incredible. Says the Rebbe, that's only just an example of what's hidden inside of every human being. And even more is hidden inside of every Jew. It says, by means of doing God's commandments and learning God's Torah, the commandments, we said that's like a lamp. And it's God's will. It makes God's will come into the world. The rain is like God's Torah. It says, by means of this, then it makes the ground grow. What does it mean? It reveals what was hidden inside of us. A tova, a ganiz, which is hidden inside of it. Hainu, what's hidden inside? What's called the 288 sparks that are concealed inside of the world. They're concealed, umlubash, like it says, Rasha machtir et tzadik. Like it says, the evil people, the selfish ones, they conceal the righteous ones. Who's the selfish one? Who's the righteous one? Both of them are us. The selfish one, that's called a Russia. And in the language of Russia, is a person that only thinks about himself. And our selfishness is concealing something really amazing. We're not just getting rid of the bad. We're revealing what's really good, what the bad was hiding, what our selfishness was hiding. And how do we do this? That's what contemplation of God and the Torah and the commandments do. Which is not the case when it's revealed, the good, what we said before, liot eshet chala teret bala, then the physical world, instead of concealing, then it actually reveals its true power, a level which is lamaila miatikun, something which is above any sort of fixing up. We said before at the beginning of the Maimer, that was called sag. That's what's called samach gimel. The sag, the sag. We said now, remember we learned in the beginning of the Maimer that sag is what's called tohu, pure godliness, and that broke and it became what was called ban in this physical world. And eventually it's going to raise up again, and the ban of this world becomes sag. Okay, simply what this means is that the world will reveal its true nature, that it's exactly what God wants. And God is so infinitely good that when we got a little bit of it, it says on Mount Sinai, everybody's souls jumped out of their bodies. It was just too good. They couldn't take it. And now, because we've been in such exile in such a long time, so now it's been broken down to the degree God's good that we can take it. And by learning Torah and working on ourselves and doing the commandments, then that elevates ban, which is animal, the numerical value of animal, to sag, which that's pure godliness. V'zeu v'tzliach, that's what it means. V'tzliach asher shalachti. That's what it means, that will succeed that which God has sent down. Levorer birurim, to refine this world by means of the words asher yotze mipi, that came out of my mouth. This is from the Haftorah that we say in fast days. The Haftorah that we say on fast days, which I think it comes from Jeremiah, but for some reason, my siddur is not here in front of me. I'm pretty sure that it comes from Jeremiah. Anyway, it says, the words that I put into the world, that they will succeed. When the Jewish people take it seriously, do the commandments, and they learn the Torah, and then it says anyone who learns Torah, God learns Torah opposite him. In other words, we arouse God's blessing to come into the world. So the blessing we're talking about is that the good which is inside of us becomes revealed. The good which is concealed in the world simply becomes revealed. That's the main idea of Mashiach, to reveal the good which is hidden in this physical world. Infinite good, infinite love of God in every detail of every human being, and every rock, and every plant, every animal will be revealed. And how do we do that? That's what we explained. Chukotai, by means of carving away the selfishness from the outside. That means by means of contemplation of God. And by carving away from the inside, that's by means of the commandments. Then afterwards, learning the Torah properly, then doing the commandments in a deeper way that even is more revelation of God. Go over what we learned. Beautiful mimer. The main idea is to reveal the good which is concealed inside of us, and that's why the Torah was given. Now, the Devar Malchut.